name is Shante McLaughlin. Hold on, my name is Shante McLaughlin, and I am the lead organizer for the Metro Atlanta branch of WILF. This time last year, myself, George Friday, and Teresa Elamine, we came together and we launched something that we think is fantastic. And I am grateful that we've had the honor and ability to work with the Women's International League of Peace and Freedom. I'm actually outside of my college roommate's daughter's 6th birthday party. And it has me thinking about like in watching the little girls play, like different ages, different nationalities, a couple of boys, and no one cared about anything other than play. And then we get in these organizations and we care about things other than the business of being women and what that looks like in the world. And so I hope that for some of the people who have, where there's been a difference in conversation around the Black Liberation Caucus, that you really get to experience the necessity and we get to celebrate the Triad branch, the Black Liberation Caucus, the Metro Atlanta branch, and celebrate each other. So that was a perfect song. And with that, we are going to introduce ourselves. Is there anyone else on the call from the Metro Atlanta branch? Metro Atlanta branch? All right. Well, on that note, I will turn it over to George Friday.
Good afternoon, or for everyone, it's afternoon for us all, no matter where you are.
Cutie.
Or good evening if you're an international person. I don't yet see anybody from the internationals with us. If you're not
yet.
Mute yourself so that we can hear each other or hear the folks speaking. So a year ago today, yes, Shante is right. We were building branches here in the South. In North Carolina, we built a Triad branch. And my co-organizer with the Triad branch is Kim Porter. Now, it took us a while for those of us who were south of the Greensboro, Winston-Salem area, and that's us in Charlotte, Gastonia, part south, even including the Charlotte South area of Rock Hill, to become the Southern Piedmont branch. But I'm going to turn it over to Kim to highlight what's going on with the Triad branch now that there's a Southern Piedmont branch and a Triad branch. Kim?
Hey y'all, it's great to be here this afternoon. I'm in my car. I'm having to travel from a family retreat to a farming retreat from Virginia to North Carolina. So I apologize for being in the car, but I'm glad to be here with you all. So excited to be celebrating for the Triad branch or for the Black Liberation Caucus, going strong. As y'all know, most of what we've done has been on Zoom this year, but we've been able to participate in ongoing conversations about the struggle for Black liberation, for peace and justice. Also talking about what's going on with the prisons, with the death penalty, and the prison industrial complex, and also some environmental work as well, and working with the Poor People's Campaign too. So just on here myself as an ally and as a support for the Black Liberation Caucus, and also to celebrate while we're all here together. My cohort, Minerva Garcia, had planned to be on here today with me from the Triad branch. She and I are co-facilitating from now on the leaders in our branch, but she couldn't make it at the last minute. And let me see who else is on the call from the Triad branch today. I know several people were sick. Is Heather on here? Anybody here that wants to introduce themselves?
I don't see anybody, Kim.
Sorry. Okay, well, again, thanks for having us on here as part of the celebration.
Okay, enjoy your meeting. Be safe in your travels. And thanks for joining us.
Yes.
I want to turn it over now to Teresa Elamine to talk to us about the Black Liberation Caucus. I'm on the strategy team along with Shante for the Black Liberation Caucus. But I now want to turn it over to Teresa.
Well, thank you, George. It is quite a celebration. I should let everyone know that around December of 2020, the Southern Anti-Racism Network made a commitment to WILF to build branches and include more women of color in WILF as an organization, recognizing that in its 100 plus years, WILF has not had the level of equity and inclusion to draw in women of color. So the 4 branches that we've started in the past year have been primarily led by women of color at their inception. And out of that process, it became real that those of us as women of color need to have a space where we can talk about how we address issues that tend to come up in organizations where most of the leadership is of European descent, and we're new in building our place in the organization. So the Black Liberation Caucus is designed to build WILF as a more equitable and inclusive organization. And we know that we have many allies. And even though there have been some objections to the formation of the Black Liberation Caucus, we're unstoppable. And on May 22nd of, was it last year? Hard to believe it's been a whole year since we first came together and came up with our basis of political agreement. So I want to ask George to share the screen so people can know about our Black Liberation Caucus. And George, if you would be kind enough to read this, since you're the keeper of the documents, and the logo is created by the most amazing artist, Shante McLaughlin, who set up our Black Liberation Caucus as an important contribution to WILF. So George, if you could just read through our basis of political agreement and help me out, and then you can move the program. Thank you, George.
No problem. So you can see here that this was agreed upon on May 22nd, 2021, or that's when we founded. Our decisions are made by consensus, making sure that we've gone through any questions or objections, concerns people have. And if there's a lack of readiness among anyone, we continue to speak until we have consensus. The meetings that we have every month are steering committee meetings. And ideally, there are 2 representatives of African descent from each branch attending that meeting if possible. We meet on the last Sunday of each month for the most part. Here are our agreed upon areas of work. Kim mentioned some of those: reparations, freeing all political prisoners, criminal justice reform and ending mass incarceration, ending voter suppression, solidarity with Palestine, the anti-racist transformation of WILF US, solidarity with other oppressed people of color, universal health care for all, Medicare for all, and immigration justice. That is our basis of political agreement. Teresa, can I ask you to introduce our speakers if you're done?
Oh, wow. Yes, it's such a pleasure that we have 2 very important issue committees. at the 1-year anniversary of the Fannie Lou Hamer branch, we asked the Cuba and Bolivarian Solidarity Committee to speak. And at this celebration, we have the honor of 2 issue committees, and Earth Democracy, which is co-chaired by Nancy Price, is going to tell us about the work of that committee. Nancy Price is kind of well known in the movement, and perhaps she could say a little bit more about herself, where she's located, and what she has been doing in Wilf the years she's been a member. And I'll wait until after Nancy's presentation before I introduce Mary Beth Gardner. So could we do it that way, George?
That's perfect. Thank you. Okay, Nancy.
Hello all, and thank you very much for inviting me and Earth Democracy to participate in this wonderful celebration, 1st-year anniversary. And I expect many, many more, so that we can all work together to save our planet B and all the people and living things that live on this planet. I've lived in Davis. I was born and grew up on the East Coast. I've lived in Davis since 1973. And have worked on so many projects here that it would take my 10 minutes to enumerate them, but we've been very successful in many ways in keeping Davis, challenging our city council and University of California, Davis from doing what they want to do and having them listen to the people and what we think lots of their projects and plans should look like in order to take into account the many voices of those of us who live here, and to challenge the power structure and the university's failure to address some of the issues of housing and local economic development that suits the needs of all in our community. Right now, I have to say that I'm involved in 2 campaigns that will be voted on this June 7, coming right up. One is to defeat a huge business park that we defeated 2 years ago by 2,000 votes. We were sued this year because it was alleged that our ballot statement was misleading and incorrect. We were sued by a city council member who's also the honorary chair of the Yes campaign. We, of course, are the No campaign. And we then got 3/5 of our fees, legal fees, paid back by the Yes campaign. That was quite a victory as well. It's, I think, touch and go whether we win or not. And then also I'm involved in the campaign of a woman named Juliette Beck, who George Friday may know, who's running for the Board of Supervisors in our county. And she is, she is the, well, there are other women who run, but she hopes to be the victor. We have not had a woman on the Board of Supervisors for 12 years, so it's time to break up the old boys club. So keep your fingers crossed on these 2 campaigns. I think as I contemplate moving back into since I'm off the board of WILF and I move back into really taking up some neglected challenges for the Earth Democracy Committee, I hope that all of you will think of joining the Earth Democracy Committee and helping us refine our campaigns and projects for the next years. And particularly, George, if you'd like to go to the PowerPoint, that would be a good segue. Thank you very much. So very quickly, I'd like to mention that a proposal of ours for the International Congress was accepted. It's Fighting the Militarism of Extinction and Annihilation, a Feminist Perspective. This actually is an opportunity, you could go to the next, George, to bring together the climate and the militarism, the intersection of climate and militarism, in trying to get the military carbon bootprint, so the military greenhouse gas carbon output into the national nation reports, so that the carbon footprint at this point, their greenhouse gases are exempt for various reasons. This program will be a 20-minute PowerPoint and then 70 minutes for discussion and questions. Next, please, George. So I just want to say that if you add up the military's greenhouse gas emissions, and all the activities that you see, for example, in the Ukraine war, which add even more greenhouse gases, that we are going to be struggling to keep the rise in temperature below 1.5 degrees centigrade. You know that that will contribute a huge amount of climate catastrophe and the impact on women, children, communities, and the disabled and infirm. So we have to emphasize the impact and educate and mobilize as we go forward. Next, please, George. So our goal in this panel discussion is to work with the Environmental Working Group of International so that we can present a demand and then also create a toolkit so that sections of the International WILF can have a document that they can work with, translate into their various languages, and that we can move forward in solidarity, challenging the military, and to really recognize the issues of climate injustice and environmental injustice in so many areas of the world if we don't really push back against militarism and demand that money is moved out of the military budget to human needs. Thank you, George. Next, please. So this is some further information just to tell you that in 1997 is when the military was made exempt. So that's what we're really challenging by trying to go to COP27 in Egypt in late November of this year and make a demand along with all our colleagues in other countries that this exemption is no longer practicable. Thank you. Next, George, please. So I just want to remind you of what Earth democracy means in terms of the 10 principles of Vandana Shiva. We will be elaborating those further in our new literature on our new website. Next. And here's our flower of our principal efforts and program elements: rights of nature, human right to water, guardianship and the precautionary principle, environmental impact of conflict and war, climate justice, women in peace, and food sovereignty. Next, please, George. We have two co-chairs of this committee. We need to come together and determine a evening monthly meeting. At this point, we have a coordinating committee that meets Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And these, as you see, is our current branch members. I'd love to have the branches that we're celebrating today designate some representatives to our committee and also to meet at our Wednesday coordinating meeting until we find an evening time that's for a monthly meeting. Next, please. So we have used the precautionary principle, which discusses that we should do no harm. However, it's very hard to coordinate the scientific evidence with actual on the ground effective policy. So we're more or less moving away from that at this point to really focus on education and mobilization to look at the how they're what I would say, how we can identify clusters of harm, that is clusters of a disease, cancer clusters, environmental impacts in communities that we can lift up and collaborate and work together to expose these harms and advocate for better policy and addressing and remediating those harms. Next, please. I myself, let's see, there's a, yeah. So I want to emphasize here that our commitment to climate justice, women, and peace is to focus very strongly on the environmental impact of the military carbon blueprint. We're including also no to NATO and their policy of full spectrum dominance, because as disarm picks up, and I know that George and Teresa are beginning the no to NATO committee for disarm, that we would like to collaborate with that and highlight then the environmental impacts. If you read the NATO 2030 report, you realize that they're headed for killer robots, killer drones, and autonomous weapons, so that there's a whole new scheme that they have in mind for all kinds of new weapons, new expenditures, and ways of carrying out war that really walk away from any humanitarian laws of war, which actually don't really function to protect civilian populations and the environment in any way. I think next, George, because I'm probably overstepping my time here. For the human right to water, we are focusing on our PFAS project, the Forever Chemicals. We have a militarypoisons.org project that you might like to go to and see the reports of Pat Elder on PFAS Forever Chemicals at military bases and surrounding communities, the contamination of drinking water and the impact on human health, and our Vermont project. We have the Blue Communities Project, which is to keep water in public hands at the local level when there are efforts to privatize water. And I want to bring to your attention that we need to focus on the Sustainable Development Goals, the United Nations, and be sure that clean water and sanitation is accomplished by public monies and not again by privatization, which raises the costs and has many more impacts. Next, please, George. And finally, we haven't developed this particular element of our subject matter, but I look forward to some of you who might be interested in helping us do so. And that is to highlight Indigenous ecological knowledge and the rights of nature, land regeneration, living soil agroecology, and link that to the climate crisis, human health and nutrition, and then also further work with the issue of CAFOs, both in Iowa and North Carolina. So this is a quick run through. I hope that I can send this to you and your branch members, and we can discuss further how we might collaborate in many different ways. And I put in the chat my email and my telephone number, and please feel that you're more than welcome to call me and work with us. We'd love to invite you in. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Nancy. You didn't go over except 2 more minutes, not bad.
Only 2 minutes. Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Nancy. Several people joined after you put your info in the chat. So could you please do that again?
It's not there.
Could you put your name, email, because people who joined after you put it in the chat.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So if you could do that again.
Sure.
Because Kim Porter, who's worked with North Carolina, Warren, and I've forgotten what it stands for, but she's a person I know in the new branches who is most familiar with the need for planet justice and fighting the bad things that are done by energy companies and others polluting the land in the South in particular. So I do want to encourage people to get up with Nancy because there are quite a few new members here, and your presentation really helped us understand what Earth democracy does. And there may be a question or two, but we do want to hear from Mary Beth Gardam with her presentation, and then George can take up any questions that might come up. But it's very important that your contact information is there so that people who are working on this issue can contact you.
I'm putting it there right now.
Great, thanks, Nancy. So Mary Beth Gardam. Mary Beth reached out to me years ago when she lived in Florida, and we had quite a few phone chats and exchanges. I don't know if Mary Beth remembers, but it meant so much to have someone for WILF reach out to me as a kind of just getting started with WILF member around 2011 or so. And so we're asking Mary Beth Gardam with Women, Money, and Democracy, a committee that I certainly want to join because of the low wealth women I work with. And Mary Beth is very strong on public banking and why we need to understand how women need to be respected when it comes to money and democracy. So Mary Beth, if you're there, please speak, introduce yourself, and then tell about your issue committee. Thank you, Mary Beth. There's my friend, Mary Beth.
Teresa. I'm Mary Beth. I spent several years living in Florida, as Teresa said, and I'm on my way to being a permanent resident of Iowa again, now that my husband is retired. I've been with WILF since about 2003. I started really as a peace advocate, and I became more interested after a while in why our messaging was not getting through, and learned all about the corporate control of media and why the voices of people who wanted peace were being silenced. So that kind of got me involved with corporate power. George, would it be okay if I could share my screen?
Sure, just give me 11 seconds to set it up.
Take 12.
I was just telling Shantae this morning, when people say something like, just give me 1 second, it annoys me because it never just takes 1 second, but I think I can get this done in another 4.
Okay.
Okay, it should work now.
I wanted to just mention that several members of our committee are here: Laurel Farnham, Mary Sanderson, and Dee Murphy. So thank you all for being here in support of our committee and me. And let's see about sharing my screen. Here we are. Okay, can you all see that? This is our logo, Women, Money, and Democracy. We started life in WILF as corporations versus democracy, but we've expanded what we address, and you'll see why. We meet every third Tuesday of each month at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Our next meeting is June 21st. You're invited to visit our meeting and dip your toe in and see if you want to join us. If you have questions, you can contact us at wmad@wilfus.org. There's my email as well. In WILF, in Women, Money, and Democracy, you will find women like you who want system change enough to work for it. You'll find a path to leadership for introducing projects and strategies. You'll find organizing tools and the chance to create them. You'll find strategies to engage the public, and long and short-term projects that invite your participation and leadership. We've been restricted in what we can do because of low capacity. So getting more people to join us is important in order to expand the work. We envision and work towards a vibrant participatory democracy where the common good of all people is prioritized over profiteering and the consolidation of power. And we prioritize solutions and actions that arise from our analysis and contextual thinking. Our projects reflect that priority and are designed to raise our own expertise on economic issues, to make us better able to facilitate important dialogues about these issues in our own communities, and to find ways to take meaningful action across the United States. Our projects are designed to be able to shift power, transform our economy, and strengthen our democracy, all while lifting up the voices and activism of people with wombs. While these are not the only projects that could be part of our effort, they're what we have the capacity to do at the moment. Advocating for public banking, we train activists and inspire action. In recognizing the need for a more equitable banking system that works for people, not against them, our committee created a public banking toolkit to better inform the public about what public banking is and why it matters. And in partnership with other allies, we offer a series of women's learning circles on public banking that raise awareness about the benefits of public banking for communities of color, economically challenged communities, students needing educational assistance, affordable housing, and accessible small business loans, along with many other benefits, including some for the planet. Our training helps inform and inspire effective advocates. A cohort from our latest learning circle is working to get to the new state treasurer in Vermont and try to get the dialogue rolling in Vermont. We also educate about monetary reform and the oppressive nature of debt. We encourage our members to learn more about how our money system works and how it is rigged against the majority of Americans. Monetary Minute segments during our monthly meetings educate our members about the myths of money creation and how a new monetary system might prioritize people over profits and serve the common good. We explore the history and assert the potential of reimagining money to equitably distribute wealth and power instead of concentrating it. We tell the truth about the role of our money system as a means of keeping people in debt. Money speaks in a male voice, it always has, but we're trying to change that. Our work puts women at the center of the economy where they've always been, but have been told that they don't belong. Our work gives women a voice in creating a democracy that works for all Americans and an economy based on the values we hold, but are constantly told we can't afford. Funny how there's always more money for war. We identify economic injustices which affect women and families most of all. We lift up innovative solutions that can help re-envision a post-capitalist society in a more caring economy. Many of those solutions are being innovated and advanced by young women of color, and we work to give them a bigger microphone through our partnership with An Economy of Our Own and regular webinars to raise awareness and organize. Our members of our committee don't need to be experts. We're all learning together the best way to move solutions forward. and how to explain the role of women in economics in the simplest way possible. Raising the voices of feminist innovators, we co-sponsor feminist economic webinar events, regular Zoom conversations, and learning circles that lift up the voices of innovative women and their real-world economic solutions. Our Zooms of our own feature some of the most creative and innovative women shaping economic solutions like mutual aid, innovations in housing, solidarity economies, cooperative business ownership, and much more. We are creating safe spaces for people with wombs to communicate, learn together, organize, and together transform our society and economy from a ruthless patriarchal model to a more sustainable and caring economy. We began in the early 2000s as a campaign to raise awareness about the threat of big money interests to a robust functioning democracy. We challenged the corporate theft of constitutional rights and the complicity of the Supreme Court. We educate with allies and organize to call out the corrupt theft of constitutional rights and the complicity of a corrupt Supreme Court. Our powerful study course raised awareness in the early 2000s about how corporate power silences people and steals the constitutional rights that were intended for human persons. And we're currently beginning a project to transform that course into a podcast to reach a new generation of activists and update it with deeper understanding of the role our monetary system and racist owner capitalism played in creating a faux democracy that was never intended to include everyone. We're looking for a co-anchor to help produce and facilitate that podcast. Last year, our committee committed to do the work of women, money, and democracy in a way that honors the history of racism and white supremacy in the United States. It's a work in progress, but we're moving forward. To build a movement that will accomplish our mission for economic justice for all and to build participatory democracy, we must overcome the legacy of racism and sexism and stand together for change. As a predominantly white organization, we need to be sensitive to how racism and sexism impacts our organization and members and commit to building across racial, class, and gender lines. Our committee has begun that process with provocative racial justice segments in each of our meetings that focus on the issues as well as solutions. While we work and advocate for policy and economic changes towards a more equitable economy and a more participatory democracy, we acknowledge that poor people and people of color cannot wait for these long-term challenges. They're already advocating for substantive economic equity and practical demands like reparations, workers' rights, basic living income, climate justice, and an end to the for-profit prison pipeline. Understanding the urgency, we stand with them, learn from them, and from our partners. What new projects could we take on? Well, you tell us. All we need is a little more energy, a few more people. There are just a few more ideas listed here of things that we've considered doing, but just don't have the time, energy, and people to take on right now. But if any of these or others are projects that you're interested in that fit under the banner of Women, Money, and Democracy, bring your passion and willingness to lead. Our committee has an onboarding process for proposing and approving new projects, and you can learn more about them by contacting us. And that's pretty much it. Like I said, our next committee meeting is Tuesday, June 21st at 8 p.m. Eastern. And we hope that some of you will visit and decide to join us.
Thanks so much, Mary Beth.
Mary Beth, really appreciate it. And George, before we offer the Q&A, I just want to say that I'm struck by how much of the Black Liberation Caucus work kind of connects with all of the issue committees. And to hear Women, Money, and Democracy say they're doing their work through a racial justice lens is really important. And I think as we continue to grow as a Black Liberation Caucus, it will be more and more members of WILF across a wide geographic area as we get ready to launch the DC branch later this month, building towards the Poor People's Campaign. I just think this is the best time in the world to be building WILF and getting support for the two committees we've heard from today. And so I just want to ask Mary Beth to say a little bit more about the interaction between Women, Money, and Democracy and the Poor People's Campaign. I learned years ago that 70% of people living in poverty are women and children. So I just want to see if Mary Beth can address that awful disparity of women and children being the overwhelming majority of people living in poverty. Thank you, George, and I'll leave the rest up to you.
Well, I think that to answer your question, Teresa, until a few months ago, Dorothy Van Soest from the who is involved with the Poor People's Campaign and was our liaison, WILF liaison to the Poor People's Campaign before Emily and Rowan, was on our committee. And I used to call her the soul of the Women, Money, and Democracy Committee. It was pretty much her influence that moved us towards incorporating more of the racial justice lens work in our work. She made the very good point that these are issues that overwhelmingly affect women, especially women of color and families, and that they have very little voice in the way the policies go. And we also have a wonderful ally on our committee, Ricky Gard Diamond, who wrote Screwnomics, how our economy works against women and real ways to make lasting change. Ricky is a really great ally and source of lots of information. Her book is a great resource. And I think between Dorothy and Ricky, they really got us started on some projects that were very, very key to changing the balance of power for women and families. I hope that answers your question.
That was great to hear, Mary Beth. Thank you so
yes,
much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I imagine that other people have questions, comments.
George,
And-
before we go into Q&A, there's one more thing. If you could check the agenda.
Oh. Wow. It'll probably take less time if you tell me, Shantae.
The video?
Yes, that's where we're going right now.
Okay,
And
great.
and the reason I was bringing that up is I'm not great at chat. Shantae is. So if you will put your questions or comments in the chat, we will be able to go through those. And to help you have time to do that, I'm going to show a short video of about 3 minutes. That's also a great reminder and a great follow-up to what Teresa just talked about. Oh,
I remind you.
I messed up, y'all. I didn't share the volume, the audio. Thank you for your grace and forgiveness. Good Lord.
You're doing an amazing.
No, it'll do. You're forgiving. I appreciate that.
We're all forgiving.
Well, that'll come in handy in life. Okay, here we go. All right. Again. Lord help me. Oh, there you go.
I remind you that starving a child is violence. Suppressing a culture is violence. Neglecting school children is violence. Punishing a mother and her child is violence. Discrimination against a working man is violence. Ghetto housing is violence. Ignoring medical needs is violence. Contempt for poverty is violence. Even the lack of willpower to help humanity is a sick and sinister form of violence. The violence of war is understood by everyone. There is hardly a family which has not been victimized by the effects of war. What a nonsensical and cruel way to try to resolve conflicts. We have come to realize and understand the broad dimensions of violence in our society. The problems of racism, poverty, and war can all be summarized with one word: violence, which seems to be fashionable in our society. If we do not stop this madness, we will certainly destroy ourselves and the whole world.
Far too long. Yes, it's gone on. Far too long. I tell you it's gone on. Far too long. Oh, somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on. Far too long. Together. And we won't be silent anymore. Now we're gonna put a little rhythm to this, okay?
That's a can I get an amen moment right there.
Amen. Hallelujah.
Amen.
So right now, George, I do not see any thing in the chat as far as any questions. And I just wanted to take a quick moment myself too to say thank you to our two speakers. I've been playing phone tag with one, and the other I've had the grace and privilege of having conversations with offline. She was actually even a guest on our show, which was Mary Goddard and Mary Beth and Ricky with Screwnomics. They were both guests on our show, so they are who they really are here today and a year ago when I think we first had a conversation. So thank you for all of your generous conversation today.
Well, is there anyone who want, oh, Mary Beth, you're muted. Go ahead. I can tell you're talking.
I just wanted to also say that some of the discussion on our committee has involved a comparison of the Poor People's Campaign moral budget with the amount of money that's being spent on weapons and armaments for the Ukraine. You know, the Poor People's Campaign is literally asking for like pocket change compared to the trillions that are being spent on this this war. It really only enriches oligarchs from all of the countries, and the people who are going to pay for it are all the people like us who will be paying for it in many ways for many years.
Thanks, Mary Beth.
Could I make a comment?
Go ahead, Nancy.
I'd like to add to Mary's Beth's mention that they are focusing on the Vermont legislature with an initiative on public banking, and to sort of demonstrate that with our military, Earth Democracy's Military Poisons Project, we have quite an organization across the state on now focusing on the candidates for the Vermont primary and the November elections, to ask them questions about the military, about PFAS, forever chemicals, contamination of water, land and fish in Vermont, and determining what kind of legislation they will be supporting. So here are two parallel efforts of two of our issue committees that perhaps really need to recognize each other. I didn't know that Mary Beth was focusing on public banking there, and to show that through public banking in Vermont, there could be remediation and approaches to highlighting the need for safe water to drink, and advisories at rivers and lakes that fish should not be caught and eaten. So
Yeah.
Mary Beth, let's you and I talk. I'd also just like to highlight what I said in the chat, that the Poor People's Campaign did add to Martin Luther King's 3 evils, ecological devastation. So that, of course, connects us very deeply to the Poor People's Campaign. Thanks very much.
Yes, Teresa.
Yes, I think this is probably a good time to point out that there's a lot of intersectionality between the issue committees. And one of the things that is going to be helpful is having a program committee chair to help kind of coordinate the connections between committees. And I want to kind of put Joan Goddard on the spot because many of us are active in the Advancing Human Rights Committee, which is addressing reparations, ending mass incarceration, and immigration justice. And I think it helps new members to know that there are numerous ways of contributing to the work of WILF by joining the issue committees. So if Joan could say something about how the program committee as an umbrella for the issue committees work, since she was a program committee chair for quite some time.
Okay, well, first of all, yay, congratulations, wonderful, yay. I think it's great to have the celebration too, as well as having the branches and the Black Liberation Caucus. So Teresa's asking me, as she said, putting me on the spot. And I want to say that I was program chair for 1 year, and a lot of people did a lot of work before that year to work on getting what's called Program 2.0 or 2.0 together, which encourages the issue committees and branches to get organized and look to the future and so on. You can find out more about that if you don't already know about it. There are several issue committees, as you all probably know, and you can look on the wilpus.org website under Our Work to find out about that. You won't find very much yet about the Advancing Human Rights Committee, which Teresa also mentioned, and which is what I have been convening to get us back together after about 3 or 4 different iterations of that committee over a long period of time. And there are wonderful subcommittees now Teresa mentioned, she didn't mention the UN for Women, but that's another one of them, which you'll see more information about if you look on the website now. And there will be more on the other subcommittees as we go along. So Teresa mentioned the subcommittees, and they are doing work and getting ready to do work and finding out what the branches are doing already, and as a way to probably share the information about what some branches are doing, the ones who have people part of AHR, and therefore encourage others to join in. We will have an article in the July e-news, which goes to all members. And in that, we will probably be announcing, almost undoubtedly, a new person coordinating for the subcommittees of advancing human rights. And Donna Peel is on this call. So those of you who are on the advancing human rights listserv will get a message soon asking for a vote to have Donna be the new person coordinating with the subcommittees, which are pretty much, as Teresa said, independent, but working together. And that's something that could change and have more of a central committee if that's something that the members want to do. So I don't know whether you were thinking of other things, Teresa, that you wanted shared, but since this is spur of the moment, that's what I have so far. And I know it's getting to be time for this great celebration to, oh no, it was an hour and a half, isn't it? It's not just an hour. Wonderful.
Well, it'll probably end early, but Joan, that was important to hear, because my main purpose, we have so many new members who are not a part of committees yet. And so my encouragement is for all the new members to know there are many opportunities with many issue committees and subcommittees of issue committees to participate. So I thought it would be important to hear from you as well. So
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, Eileen Krakowski. You've got your hand up. And if you give me about 6 seconds, a number of folks joined after we officially started, after I hit the recording button. So after Eileen, maybe if you'll recognize someone else, and let's just hear your voices. Let us know your name and what branch you are in and where in the world you are. Go ahead, Eileen.
Okay, thank you. Congratulations, this is wonderful. I'm so glad you both have been able to build up support in a very important area of our nation. And I've been wanting to blend us. I believe in diversity big time. So congratulations on your year, and I look forward to a lot more. I wanted just to help any newbies because I'm fairly new to WILF. I came in 2015. My tendency is to jump in with 2 feet, which I did. And that got me rolling into a lot of things, including belonging, but not always attending disarm committees, Earth Democracy committees, and Women, Money, and Democracy committees. What I have to share is very important, and I'm actually reiterating what Mary Beth said. You don't have to know it all. You can take one little piece and learn about it, and learn a little bit more about it, and count on people who know more. Often those are the leaders or the chairs who bring in experts, and you feel so much more confident when you hear it a few times, whatever the issue may be. I've been involved with public banking, and have learned a lot. Our state of Massachusetts, I'm in the Boston area, is on the road to making our state have a public bank. We've got a few fingers crossed and maybe a couple of legs too. It's a hard job to get some of these things passed, but things are moving and growing. on that issue. I have been so impressed with Nancy Price's connecting both Earth, Democracy, and Disarm through the military poisons. We have a lot of bases in Massachusetts, as there are in every single state. It's been planned that way. Just as planned segregation has occurred in most cities across our country. It's pretty sickening, actually. And that ingenious topic of military poisons has provided us, Earth Democracy grants that were pretty chunky and allowed for tours, although COVID has definitely got in the way. But Pat Elder won't stop. He's on a mission, and he keeps us grounded on this topic. Meanwhile, I've gotten myself with maybe 2.5 feet into the subcommittee in Disarm that Nancy mentioned, and that's about autonomous killers as well as killer drones. If you are afraid, as I am, of the the possibility of an existential, all of us dying from nukes, this other thing, autonomous killing weapons, is something to preempt, meaning work to prevent from happening, from being further developed. It's as bad as nuclear. It's going to take our ability to make decisions to kill at will. And any person, and I'm almost done, I'm sorry, any person in this Zoom room, anybody who has a hate vengeance of any sort could actually make a killer drone right now. It's right out there on the web. Please read the very long Peace and Freedom article I wrote, and that should be coming out in hard and soft and virtual copy soon. Well, we need more people to push this, and also to support other organizations that are working on this. I know we're all having trouble with manpower and backing, but I'm on a mission too. So thank you for being here and allowing me to be here and celebrate with you.
Thanks, Eileen. So let's hear your voices.
George, good
yes, Lucy
afternoon.
Murphy.
This is Lucy Murphy, and together with Teresa Elamine, I'm co-hosting a dinner meeting of WILF on June 17th at 7 o'clock at Sankofa Cafe on Georgia Avenue. And I have with me some other members who will, other members of my cultural group who will join us. And one is Melissa Strova Valencia, known as Melly, who is our theater director for Teatro de la Bolsa.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Nice to see you. See you again on the 17th. Thanks for
Yes.
being there.
And another person is Amal Nur El Huda from Sudan.
Hey, nice to see you.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh man, this groovy technology.
Amal and Melly are members of the Black Workers Center Chorus. And recently we did a experimental, bilingual, interactive theater piece for Claudia Jones called The Legacy of Claudia Jones.
Wow, thanks for letting us know that.
And we have another member here, but I think she may have gone back to work. She's a very busy language interpreter, and that's Sandra Tapia.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing her on the 17th. Thanks, Lucy.
Sure enough. Good seeing you.
Great. So I do want folks who have been here and didn't get a chance to say anything, or for us to hear your voice, to go there. So I'm going to recognize you, because my encouraging folks to hand it off isn't quite working.
George, Emily Keel's hand is raised.
Yes, I see that. I was gonna make Emily last, thinking her hand isn't raised just to say, my name is Emily Keel and I'm in the extra branch, which I hope other people say your name, where you are on the planet, and your branch, so that we can hear everybody and still, say goodbye in a little bit, not too long. So I'm going to call on you, and let's hear from Laurel and then Mary Sanderson. Go ahead, Laurel.
Hi, my name is Laurel Farnham. I'm in the Women, Money and Democracy, on the Women, Money and Democracy Committee, and I live in Fortuna, California, which is close to the Oregon border. I'm a member at large.
All right.
And Laurel has been doing our racial lens segments during our meetings. Thank you, Laurel.
Yes, thank you. Mary?
Hi, everybody. I'm glad I could attend today, and I give you big congratulations on the work that you've done building branches in the South and facing the racial tensions that occur. I'm in Madison, Wisconsin, a member of the Madison branch, and I serve on the Women, Money and Democracy Committee as well. Big congratulations and love to all you.
And Mary does the monetary minutes segments of our meetings, and she's a storehouse of information about monetary reform.
Wow. All right. Let's see who's next. Ellen Thomas.
Hi, I'm in the mountains of North Carolina. We used to have a Western Carolina branch in the Asheville area, but that folded about 13 or 14 years ago, and I'd love to see it resurrected. And I am co-chair of the Disarm and Wars Committee, and my passion since 1984, well, since I was 5 years old, but actually doing something about it since 1984 is abolishing nuclear weapons. And if anybody wants to work on that issue, I would love to hear from you.
Thanks, Ellen. We can work on that Western branch. So Lenny and then Kim Ford. Lenny. You just muted yourself.
Get myself unmuted here. Sorry about that. Yeah. I'm Lenny Villagomez Reeves. I'm located in the mountains of Central California. My branch is Fresno, and I am currently in the house of my son up in San Francisco. So it's nice to be here at this celebration, and I appreciate it. The issue committee that I work with, that I co-chair, in fact, is the Cuba and the Bolivarian Alliance Committee. And I think that we all know that everything is connected, and we understand that everything is important. But I would like to encourage participation in the Cuba and the Bolivarian Alliance Committee. And I'd just like to say, some people see barriers to participation. They might think, well, it's very specialized and far away, but if every time an effort's made to realize any kind of an alternative anywhere in the world to, merciless racial corporate capitalism, at the cost of great sacrifice to those who are trying to achieve it. If every time this occurs, the US is allowed to crush this attempt at a better world without any protest from US people, then as passive onlookers, we are supporting that same exploitation and neocolonialism. And people think, well, there's nothing in it that really applies to me. But, it's not only that all issues are connected and everything is intersectional. We also need an understanding that establishes that we're all connected as people, and that if it harms you, it harms me. And it does. It harms us to allow our government to carry on siege warfare and starve out people elsewhere. And I think the last barrier is that people kind of think it seems hopeless, it's 60 years of blockade in Cuba, sanctions on a third of the world's population. It's like, but, we're not required to achieve victory in our lifetimes, but we are required to die pointed in the right direction and struggling powerfully. I won't say fighting like hell because this is Wilp, struggling powerfully to get there. And I thank you, and come see us. We meet monthly on the third Monday, which I think that will be the 14th. Something like that. I'll send it out. Thank you.
So much, Lenny.
And congratulations, you know, what you've done is so hard, getting something new started, but you know, if it's hard just getting a couple of people involved, imagine all these new chapters. You guys are awesome. Awesome organizers. Take care.
Thanks, Lenny.
It's no accident that our government opposes Cuba so strongly, because they have demonstrated a different model of government and economy that we will not allow to show success. So that's how the Cuba Committee connects with the Women, Money, Democracy Committee as well.
Where is Lenny located?
In Northern California. She's part of the Fresno branch.
Okay.
Right now, she's at her son's house in San Fran, I think.
I hear you. I went to Cuba with the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom in 2006 with Cindy Domingo and other folks from Seattle. Lenny, were you on that group?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
So Lenny, put your info in the chat
right?
so that you guys can put your info in the chat so that you guys can communicate.
Yeah.
I know that Lucy already put her phone number in, so save the chat, Lenny, when we are done so that you guys can communicate. That'd be awesome. So we want to hear voices from Kim Ford, then Samantha Turner. Go ahead, Kim.
Okay, I see Mama Fatima has her hand up, and that's who invited me to this collaborative.
Yeah, we're going to hear from everybody, Kim. So let us know where you are in the world.
Okay, my name is Kim Ford. I am the NCOBRA female chair for the New Orleans chapter. I'm also an activist and advocate strongly throughout the state of Louisiana, which is the capital of incarceration in our country. So we have a lot of work that's being done here. And I was invited here, like I said, by Mama Fatima. And I'm really big on women empowerment and women-led movements is dear to my heart. And I'm just honored even to see that you all have a Fannie Lou Hamer branch. Lets me know that I'm in a friendly space. So I'm just glad to be here. I just want to listen in and hear what's going on and then chime in where I can help.
Thanks so much. So glad you're here. So Samantha Turner and then Mama Fatima.
Hi, I'm Samantha Turner. I'm in the Southern Piedmont branch. I reside in Charlotte, North Carolina. I want to say congratulations. It's been a year. I feel like I've learned 100 years of wisdom from being with you, Teresa, and from being involved in your work. You're an amazing leader. I really appreciate, and I'm an accomplice with you guys. I can't wait to work on the with the Black Liberation Caucus as a European ally, and I also serve with the Immigration Justice and the EMIDP, the Ending Mass Incarceration and Ending the Death Penalty committees, and it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you and congratulations and many, many more.
Perfect. Mother Fatima, then Earlene.
Greetings. I'm really glad to be here. I got involved via our sister Teresa Elamine, who knows my family very well. My grandmother, Caroline Peary, was an African-American pioneer in the WILF movement long before anybody really understood the seriousness of what you were doing. They didn't understand women, period. And she was bold enough to step up with people she felt were stepping up that could be European allies. And so actually, aside from our longtime warrior, Sister Elamine, my daughter, Shemaye, is a member in Charlotte as well. And I was very much happy and attracted by the fact that there is a Black Liberation Caucus within this powerful and dynamic organization. We need those kind of alliances. Also, the fact that I am also the National Commission for Membership, Organization Development, Human Resources at the national level within COBRA, the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America. And I do have a perspective on reparations that involves the importance of all of us understanding the general human rights movement. And I will close by saying that people tend to look at reparations as a selfish issue. It's not. The race problem in this country that remains unresolved is hurting everybody. The ignorance and the misunderstanding that we swore to get rid of is still here. And if we can deal with the areas of injury that are not in the lingering effects of slavery that are still hurting the majority of left behind, most oppressed segments of the Black community, then we can make this a better country as a whole. This is a problem that none of us can continue to be dishonest and in denial about. I don't care who we are. Malcolm X once said, and I'm going to close with this, he said that the biggest problem and the biggest hindrance to resolving racism in this country is the failure of Black people and white people to sit down and honestly be honest with each other. And COBRA is a Black determined organization, but that's not based on emotion and resentment. We've got 30 to 40 million people who are still in captivity, literally, in this country with no infrastructure of their own. And while civil rights was a very good move, it definitely made this a better country to the extent it could be enforced. It never really addressed the issue of the lingering effects and harm done by slavery. And I am very happy that the organization that my grandmother belonged to is sensitized or attempting to become sensitized to the realities involved with this issue. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you, Mama Fatima. I want to hear now from, I believe, Earlene, and then Dee, and then Deche. If I said that wrong, please forgive me. So Earlene, Dean, and Deche, and then Teresa has something to share with us.
Hello, George. I'm so happy that you're doing this, and I always follow and for what's going on. I'm from New York City, and I'm between New York City now and Cleveland, Ohio, and I just believe in activating and helping in various areas. Right now, I'm dealing with urban farming in Ohio, Cleveland. I think it's very important for us to get into our spaces and to create a food force, regardless of how small it is. And I'm very concerned about housing. I always have been. Housing is an issue, and with women of color being evicted from their homes and homes being taken from our seniors, there's a lot of things that are going on that are not discussed in terms of people being evicted and how they're being evicted and losing their homes. And there's many ways that the system is doing these kinds of things of taking people's homes and evicting people that have to be put out front and talked about. But I'm very happy to be a part of this conversation. I appreciate your work, George, and everybody else's work. So I'll keep doing what I'm doing on my end. And it's nice to know that you sisters are doing what you're doing on your end.
We
Thank you.
are. And that includes having branches in Cleveland and New York City. You'll hear more about that later.
Thank you.
Oh, sure. D and then Deche.
Hi, my name is Dee Murphy. I live in central Minnesota. And as there's no active, there is an active Minnesota branch, but they're not really involved with national. So I am an at-large member with the Jane Addams branch. I wanted to say thank you to George and Teresa for their work towards raising awareness of cultural issues that do need to be faced and managed within wealth. I came in about a year ago. Teresa and George brought me in through the Black Liberation Caucus. I have been participating on some committees on wealth, and I've noticed a distinct attention being paid when issues come up, regarding a perception of cultural challenges that may or may not directly connect to racism and classism. So they're doing a great job in terms of raising awareness, and would encourage other people to join committees as well. It seems like people are being more responsive to concerns, and I want to thank everyone that is doing such an amazing job addressing these matters. Thank you. Over.
Thanks, Dee. We're going to hear from Deche, and then finally, Emily, with your lovely patience, we'll hear from you after Deche Bowler, if I'm saying that correctly. I look forward to seeing if I'm right.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
That mute thing mixes me up. Yeah, you're close, but it's Deche. So I'm from San Francisco, Wilp, and I'm delighted to be here with everybody and hearing what I'm hearing. It's all wonderful. I'm into social change, and I put into chat a link to a songwriter I've just run across, a singer-songwriter. He sings with a guitar, topical songs, and he's not only very good, but his subjects are quite pertinent, the whole range of them. And one of them happened to be about a weapons factory in Asheville, North Carolina. And I did my best to contact the local section there of WILP. And I've put the link to the site where I ran across him, where you can listen to, I don't know, I listened to about 20 songs. They just one after another. And the diction is clear, and they're great songs. And I'm into using songs for our minds and our hearts, and I recommend them. And thank you all very much for this meeting.
Thanks so much. I hope I got it right then. And now we're going to hear from.
May I say, with respect to what you said, DG, that the link doesn't work?
Oh, I'm sorry. I worked very hard to copy it, and I couldn't make it come up the way it's supposed to. I'll do what I can and put it in.
Otherwise, maybe put the artist name in the chat and we can look them up.
Yeah, I did. Tom Nielsen, Neilson.
Very good. Emily.
Thank you. I appreciate being here, and I'm the current liaison from the Wealth to the Poor People's Campaign, and looking forward to attendance from a lot of you in DC. So it's an exciting time, and can't wait to get there and meet people in person. And I just want to congratulate Triad and Fannie Lou Hamer and the Black Liberation Caucus for your outstanding year. You brought a lot of great teachings to us, new ideas, and great strength to Wilt, and we look forward to more of your valuable contributions. I hope to see some of you at the Sankofa Cafe as well on the 17th. We'll be there. Many of us will be there for that. Well, several of us will be there for that. And hope to see many of you in DC. Thank you.
Excellent. So any last comments or announcements before we close?
Yes,
Teresa.
Oh, yeah. You know, when I was looking at Nancy's face as Earlene Fisher was speaking, I kept thinking, Earlene, put your information in the chat, because what she was talking about food sovereignty and housing, it definitely connects with Earth democracy. There's so many great things we're going to be doing together. And I do want to say to Mama Fatima, we need to start that branch in New Orleans. And there's no question that we're going to start that branch in Western Massachusetts, because we know plenty of folks in Asheville, Ellen. So I just want to encourage everyone to think in terms of us continuing to build the branches so that we can have more and more people to participate in the important issue committees. Because as you can see, there's amazing work going on, and we have to keep building our capacity. And we do that, Mama Fatima. I've been getting lots of Cobra mail, so we need to talk, Mama Fatima, about the convention coming up later this month, so that we can build the transformation of society that reparations is all about. So George, thank you for letting me be so excited, and what a great celebration this has been. And I see so much potential as we move forward, because you know we will organize, right, Lucy? We're gonna organize. So
Yes,
thank you.
Teresa, and when I see you, I expect you to sing that song.
You know, that's gonna be hard. Lucy, you sing so well, and I'm counting on you. Maybe I'll risk it.
I know better. But I do love music. We're gonna close
Well,
now.
George, if I could just say, we say NATO's got to go, got to go, got to go. We say NATO's got to go so the people can live in peace.
Yay.
Amen. Hallelujah. All right. So we're recording now, and I'm going to play a closing song so that you can copy the chat. The recording will be sent out to everyone who registered, so you'll get the recording as well. And one of the reasons I'm going to keep the recording going is because the song we're going to hear is from Sweet Honey in the Rock, who, in my experience of 2 years dealing with this virtual world, which I love because I'm a weirdo, have never said a copyright issue at all. So they're cool. And I know that the recording that we saw of Coretta Scott King, it's her voice, a recording of her voice, and Code Pink created all the images. And Poor People's Campaign basically has shared it openly, so they're not going to do any kind of copyright things. But it's lovely to make sure we're including music, and we've got people in our world like Lucy Murphy that let us know that it's important to have song and spirit and all in our events, because our brains, our humanity needs to take in all these forms of love to have the resilience to put up with the bullshit out there. Okay, sorry, I'm getting a little carried away. But thank you all for today. I'm going to play this, and then you can save the chat, and then I'll end. When the song ends, I'll end too. Not me, but you know, the meeting.
You know, when we came into town, I noticed that there were children jumping up and down on the trampoline, and I saw people holding hands and walking the streets and just experiencing this beautiful, beautiful place. And I realized, you know, everywhere we go in the world, most people want the same thing. Is it pay, peace, love, peace?
Standing for freedom, freedom till he comes. 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 Stand up for freedom, stand up for freedom, stand up for freedom, stand up for freedom, peace on earth and stand up for freedom, stand up for freedom, word I speak, restore peace again. Let there be peace on earth, let the moment be now, when every man and woman understand their power, let there be peace. Let there be peace. Let there be peace. Let there be peace. Let there be peace on earth and let it extend to every border near and far. Restore peace again. Let there be peace on earth and let this be the day when all humanity will raise their voices to say, let there be peace. Let there be peace. Let there be peace. Let there be peace. And let it extend to every border near and far. Restore peace again. Let there be peace on earth, let this be the day when all humanity will raise their voices and say, let there be peace. Sing with us. Let there be peace. Let there be peace. I cannot hear you. Let there be peace. Bring it down a little bit. Sing. Sing with them. Come on. Let there be peace. There's restoration in the name of peace. Let there be peace. Our families are healed in the name, in the name. It's important that we each call her name, call her name. There's healing in the name of peace. Sing. There's joy in the name, in the name, in the name. Our children are safe in the name of peace. Our families are held in the name, in the name. All men get along in the name of peace. She needs you to call her name, call her name, call her name. There's restoration in the name of peace. We need you to sing after we leave, call the name. You keep singing in the name, in the name.
Only two things are forever, love and Liberty Mutual.
Save the chat, everybody.